In this reading pillow with pocket and handle sewing tutorial, let's take a look at the materials you'll need. You'll need fabric for the pillow cover front, back, and the pockets. You'll also need some fusible fleece. Here are some of the tools that you'll need. I'll also list them below. Now, the first thing you're going to do is cut your fabric. It depends on if you're cutting a 16, 18, or 20 inch. And I have those listed as well. So for the 16-inch pillow, you'll need a 16-inch piece of fabric for the front. You'll need 2 pieces of fabric cut for the back of the pillow cover. You will also need a piece of fabric cut for the handle and some fusible fleece for the pocket and for the pillow front. I also like to use some fusible fleece or interfacing for the back of the pillow too. I just feel like it gives it a nicer finish and a little more stability. You'll need 1 inch by 9 inch pieces cut for the handle of the pillow cover. So the first thing that we are going to do is to fuse our fleece. And I'm just showing you here what I'm going to do to this pillow cover, and then once we fuse it, we'll top stitch it. So here's a handy tool. It's called a quilting guide bar, and it goes into your presser foot, and it will allow you to do some quilting on the pillow cover without having to mark your fabric. I usually start out with one line, and here I'm using a friction marking pen and marking my line, and I'm going to stitch down that, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, I'm going to prepare my handle. I will fold it in half lengthwise and press it, open it up, fold the long ends in towards that fold and press that. I'll repeat that for the other long end. Just press it in towards the fold, not all the way at the fold. Press that, and then we're going to open that back up and take our fusible fleece and put one piece along one long edge and then fuse that. I usually hold it down for about 10 to 15 seconds, move my iron, press 10 to 15 more seconds. And then I will repeat that for the other long edge of the handle. But be sure to follow your manufacturer's instructions for applying the fusible fleece. Some products require that you use a pressing cloth, a damp pressing cloth, but you do what your manufacturer's instructions tell you to do. So once I have that pressed, I will fold it in half and press it again. And now I'm going to fuse the fleece to the pillow pocket. Now this is the back, one of the back pieces. So I am applying fusible fleece to the back 2 pieces, the front of the pillow cover, the pillow pocket front piece. I don't fuse it to the lining piece of the pillow pocket, but I do fuse it to the front of that. So I'm just fusing the fleece to the back. This is the top back piece that I'm also going to fuse the fleece to. I'm not really ironing, I'm pressing. So I put my iron down, hold it for 10 to 15 seconds, move it to the next spot, hold it for 10 to 15 seconds, and so on until I have gone over the entire piece of the fabric. And then I was just kind of smoothing it out. I like to work from the middle and work my way outwards. Okay, so this is the pillow top piece. It's all nicely fused. This is my pillow cover front. And again, I'm going to fuse it, hold my iron 10 to 15 seconds, move it, press 10 to 15 seconds, and just work my way across the entire piece of fabric. Now you don't have to put fusible fleece or interfacing on the pillow back. I just think, again, that it adds a little bit more stability and gives it a nicer, softer feel. I mean, after all, these pillow covers are going to be used by kids, and hopefully they'll get a lot of use and abuse, and this will just help to give it a little more stability. Okay, that is the pillow front fabric and fusible fleece. And now I am going to press the fabric for the hems. So for the top back piece of the pillow cover, I will fold under 1/4 inch and press in place. The front back piece, I'm going to hem the bottom. So fold it under 1/4 inch, press that in place, fold it under 1/4 inch again and press in place. Yep. And then I will do the same thing for my pillow back. This time I will press the top. So I will fold under 1/4 inch, press that in place. And once I have that long edge nicely pressed, I will fold it over again another 1/4 inch and press that in place as well. You can mark the 1/4 inch marks if you want, but I usually just eyeball it. It's good enough for these pillow covers. And this is the handle. I remember I fused my 2 pieces, so I'm just folding it back, folding it in half again. And then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and do a nice long 3.5 to 4 millimeter stitch along both long edges. This is my pillow pocket that I am fusing the fleece to. This is just the front piece of the pocket. I'm not going to fuse fleece or interfacing to the lining of the pocket, just the front. You can make your pillow out of all the same fabric. You can use contrasting or coordinating fabrics. You can just use your imagination and make a really unique pattern. So what I like to do is to take the pillow pocket and do some quilting. And here you can see I'm using my quilting guide bar. That is the metal piece that is attached to, you can see the metal piece sticking out to the left. I can move it and to whatever measurement I want. And then I use the bar that's on the right there to line up with the previous row of stitching. And I have this set to 1 inch. So I just line up that right side of that bar to the 1 inch stitch line, and I just stitch 1 inch away from the previous row of stitchings. It's a really quick and easy way to get even rows of stitching on this project. So once I've stitched it both from left, stitched in kind of a hatch pattern, I'm ready to do my embroidery work. And here I'm just going to quickly go through and show you that I'm getting it all prepared, finding the center. Here's my design. Because my machine has a limitation, my embroidery machine has a limitation of 5 inch by 7 inch, I have to actually do this embroidery design in 2 pieces. So here's my cute little fox who's roasting a marshmallow. I'm finding where I want it to be centered. And a little tip is that whatever design you put on that pocket, you don't want it to be centered vertically between the top and the bottom. You want it to be a little bit more towards the top, because when you put your pillow form in the pillow cover, it will take up some of that space at the bottom where the pillow's rounded, and it will seem a little off. So I usually put my design a little more towards the top. So now I'm going to unhoop my design, and then I'm going to center the left side of the design and embroider that. Then I'll rehoop it, put it back on my machine, and let it finish embroidering that. When that's done, I'm going to trim any jump threads that I didn't trim while it was embroidering, give it a good pressing, and then I'm ready to continue on with the project. Now I am top stitching for the handle along both long sides. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter stitch length and just stitching that handle. Okay, now I'm ready to hem the back pieces. Remember earlier that we pressed the long edge under 1/4 inch, folded it and pressed it under another 1/4 inch. And so now I'm going to top stitch along that folded hemline. I like to do 2 rows of stitching along on the hemline. I'll do one about 1/4 of an inch away and the other about 1/8 inch away from the folded edge. And then once I've done the top stitching for the top piece, I will go and do the top stitching on the hem for the bottom back piece. And now we're ready to move on to the pillow pocket. Remember earlier I placed a pin on the right side of the fabric of the pillow pocket because I was using white fabric and it was hard to tell a difference between the front and the back. So I'm just doing a 1/2 inch seam here. Then I took it over to my ironing board and pressed it really good, and now I'm going to top stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. So when I stitch the seam to stitch the front pocket exterior and the lining pieces together, I used a normal 2.4 millimeter stitch length. Now I'm top stitching on the front and I have increased my stitch length to 3.5. You could do 2 rows of stitching on the front if you want to. I just used 1. And now I'm going to get ready to round my corners. But first, I'm going to trim off all the little stray strings and threads and make sure that my pillow cover is nice and square before I go to sew it together. So I just take my acrylic ruler and line it up with the edges. Here I have the pillow pocket front and the pillow front and the pocket lined up, and I'm trimming the edges. This is my handmade tag that I made and that I want included on the pillow, so I'm just going to pin it to hold it in place for now. And I'm going to use some Wonder Clips. You can also use some pins if you want, and just use my Wonder Clips to hold everything together. Okay, before I round the corners, I'm going to baste the pocket to the pillow front. So I'm going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I'll start on the right side of the pocket to the top pocket and start from the top, work my way all the way down to the bottom. I will pivot and then sew across the bottom of the pillow cover, pivot when I get to the other corner, and sew up the top to the top of the pocket. So I'll stop 1/4 of an inch away, raise my presser foot, pivot my fabric, and then continue to sew along the bottom of the pillow cover. When I reach the other corner, I'll again stop, raise my presser foot, pivot, and continue sewing. So I have the front and the back, and I'm lining it up, all those pieces up together. So I put the top back piece down first, face down onto the pillow front, which is laying face up. Then I place the pillow back bottom on top of that and lined it up again with the pillow front face up and the pillow pocket face down. And now I'm going and clipping, keeping the corners free because I'm going to round off those corners. I'm just using a lid that is round, holding it in place, and then using my friction pen to draw a circle on the corner. And then I'll repeat that with the other 3 corners. Again, you can use a plate, a bowl, a lid, any kind of round object that you have to round off your corners. And this is the last corner. There we go. Then I'll take my rotary cutter. I'll just follow that line that I drew and cut out the corners. This is an Olfa rotary cutter and it is my favorite. I just love it. Sorry, I got that one out of the camera view a little bit. Okay, now I have all the corners rounded. Have all my pieces sandwiched together and pinned or clipped in place. And I'm also going to find the center so I can attach the handle. So what I do is I find the center and I mark it. Then I measure over 2 inches from each side of that mark, and that is where I place the handle. So I have my center, I have my little ruler here. I'm going to measure over 2 inches. I'm just trimming off the threads on the end of that handle there. So I will just take one end, short end, line it up against the 2-inch mark, and then clip it in place. Fold the other side over, and again clip it in place. You can go ahead and top stitch or stitch those handles in place if you want before you stitch the rest of the pillow together, and that's what I'm going to do here because it just adds a little bit of stability. I should have done that when I top stitch the pocket to the pillow front. That's a really good time to attach the handle. But I'm going to do it here. So you can see I don't always do things perfectly, and you won't either, but it's okay. It works. So I'm not just top stitching or basting the handle. I'm actually stitching across it, and then I back stitch and then forward stitch again. That really kind of secures the handle to the pillow because it will get a lot of use and wear. And I also didn't mention earlier, but I am using my walking foot to do the sewing because I'm working with so many layers. Okay, I like to finish the edge of my pillow using my serger, but you don't have to. So with my serger, it's going to stitch and finish the edges, but you can also take it to your sewing machine, stitch a 1/2 inch, then go back and stitch a 1/4 inch zigzag stitch along the edge if you want to finish off those raw edges. So once I've stitched that, I simply turn the pillow cover inside out, use my fingers to push the corners and smooth those out really well. And then I will take it over to my ironing board and give it a good pressing so it's all nice and flat and remove any wrinkles. But there is the finished pillow cover. Here it is. You can see the back envelope closure. This is the embroidery design on the pocket. These are some other pillows that I did where I did some applique on the front pocket and some more embroidery designs. These are 18-inch pillow covers here, the Henry and Maddie ones. The one with the embroidered Cora is a 20-inch pillow. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you find it helpful, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and be sure to subscribe to my newsletter on Hooked on Sewing. Thank you so much.